I don't think any of those bands are actually juicing their numbers, but I do think some bands are. So let's get into it. I posted a tweet yesterday, and I thought I'd better jump on making a video about this before one of the bald guys from YouTube, trademark, does it before me, okay? So I made a tweet. Basically, I've been seeing a lot of stuff. There's, I would say, 4 bands where over the last sort of 2 years, I've seen this discourse about them juicing Spotify numbers. Spirit Box, Lorna Shore, Bad Omens, Sleep Token. My tweet was about Sleep Token. Now, for the record, I don't think any of those are juicing numbers. I can show you how I don't think that later on in the video. However, I saw a lot. Sleep Token are out right now, smashing it on a UK in Europe, a UK tour. And they are absolutely smashing it. And I've seen a lot of people. Look, it's not for me, I'll tell you this. Not going to be that guy, don't want to be a hater. It's not for me. Musically, not for me. However, for some reason, you can't go around and just say, you know what, I don't really like that. And a lot of people about Sleep Token have been saying that their Spotify monthly listeners are fake. Disclaimer 1, I don't know all of the ins and outs about what I'm going to talk about. I'm just a guy in a band, but I do know quite a lot more than people who aren't in a band and have never been in bands, like the people that own these companies. Disclaimer 2, I think Spotify and Apple Music are amazing platforms, and I use Spotify. They're great for the podcast, they're great for listening to music. I just feel like if we're all a little bit more informed, and maybe some more of us pointed the finger a little bit more, then maybe it could be better for the worker and not the fat cats at the top. Now, what are Spotify monthly listeners? If you live under a rock, or you just listen to music on vinyl, or CD, you need your hard drive checked. But if you are that sort of person, you wouldn't have a hard drive anyway. I digress. Spotify monthly listeners is a little figure, a little statistic underneath a band's name. A monthly listener is any single person that listened to any single song from an artist. Whether they clicked on it, or it came as part of a playlist, or Spotify's new discovery mode. In 2020, lovely year. What happened there? Something happened in 2020. I seem to remember it being awesome. And absolutely no one dying and nothing going wrong. In 2020, probably when everything went fucking mental, Spotify announced their new discovery mode and a back-end deal that labels and rights holders, the reason I say rights holders is because most of the time the label owns the rights to the music. If you don't know that and you think most artists own their music, you're going to have to go and maybe do a little bit more research on other videos and come back to this video. Spotify announced this deal where labels and rights owners, maybe artists that own their rights, could take a reduced royalty cut in order to have preferential playlisting popping up when you've listened to an album and it suggests you a song. Now, some of that is algorithmic based on your listening, but the very existence of these deals tells us that that is not always the case. People can forego their royalty, a percentage, maybe the whole thing, in order to be the first artist that comes up after another artist. And that is the reason why the monthly listener metric is useless. It can be bought. It's not always bought, but it can be bought. Gotta shout out Ryan Kirby from Fit for a King, who during this tweet discourse popped his little head in and screamed. He didn't scream. Popped his little head in and said, if you go on a desktop and you go on Spotify, I know, right? Who does that? Go to the about of a band or artist and you can see how many people have clicked the follow button, not the monthly listeners, but the follow button. We can assume that is a diehard fan. I don't think I've ever clicked a button other than you should be clicking that subscribe button right now. I don't think I've ever clicked a button to follow a band on Spotify. So we can assume that anyone that clicks that button is a die-hard fan. This was a bit of a revelation to me because then I went around looking for the bands that I thought maybe were juicing their numbers. And we got bands that always come up on the playlist, always come up, discover this band. And to be fair, sometimes they're really good. Nearly 500,000 monthly listeners, 18,000 following. That is not a great percentage. By and large, I've seen with the bands that I'm pretty sure through ticket sales, it's really important to stress. The only way you can decide whether a band is big is how many fucking tickets are they selling. The bands that I thought were doing well from ticket sales can see that they're doing well. It's usually between sort of 25 and 75% monthly listeners to following. Obviously, you could be put on a playlist. Obviously, you could get TikTok big from a song or whatever. Your monthly listeners are going to go up. But that is, again, just hype. That's not real core fan base. So why do I care so much? Because at its core, this is payola. Now, what payola is, it refers to a term in radio, and now a legal practice, where you could pay a radio station to play your artist more. The label did not have to announce that that's what it was. Like the ad, sponsored ad, blah, blah, blah. This video is brought to you by Displate. Get one of those, support me. You could pay for your artist to go on the radio more than any other artist and just chuck them a bung, little bit of money, and it would be done, and you wouldn't have to disclose it. It's now illegal. What is happening with Spotify playlisting is essentially just that. Again, why do you care? Why does it matter? Surely it's okay for bands as a business decision to take a little bit of their money, give it to the streaming services in exchange for more people listening to their songs. More people would come to the shows, buy merch. Shows, merch, the two things that artists and musicians mostly make their living from. I can see why you would do it. Why do I think that's such a bad idea? Because the labels are now making, because they own the rights, remember, because the labels are now making less money from the actual music because they are the ones signing these deals to get playlisted, they're now making what we call 360 deals, where an artist will sign with a label and as well as the music, they will sign away some, if not all, of the rights to their merchandise and ticket sales. Now, if you're already not making any money from the music because you've sold those rights away in order to get more playlisting, to get more people to come to your shows to buy merchandise and buy tickets to the show, you're now making less money from those. So why are you doing it? Fame? Miss me with that. Let's assume this pay to play becomes the norm, okay? Everyone's doing it. It's the only way that you can get your music heard. This is short of like a complete societal collapse where music goes back to zero and the only thing to do is to go and play in the pub and get better that way and more people will hear about you that way, which I would actually dream of, but it's not going to happen. If the playing field is completely even and everyone is paying to get on the playlists, then who gets playlisted more? The people who can pay more. Who benefits from this? The people that own these companies and who have, for the most part, zero professional musicians on the board of directors. There are some exceptions. They make more money. The playing field is now back where it was anyway, but everyone has less money other than the people who own these services. That is the problem here. Philosophical point number 2, probably 3 by now. In this world gone mad, where you have to pay to get playlisted, you get no money, you got no money from royalties. If you can't afford to get no money from royalties, you won't be playlisted. People who are hard done by and don't have the money, because this will only get worse, they don't have the money to get onto these playlists, to then get their music heard, to get their 1 foot off the ground with this. Those people just won't be able to make music or get it heard. Now, historically, some of the best music ever made comes from hard times, and you won't be able to hear it because that person couldn't afford to get it to you. That's why this sucks. That's why I urge, if you're offered these deals, just don't take it. What can you do? I don't know. I think not enough people know that this is happening. I see press and even people booking tours leading with the monthly listener, like, oh, you've got to get this band on the podcast. This is their monthly listeners. You've got to get this band on this tour. This is their monthly listeners. Now, what you can do if you do really love a band is go to their Spotify page and click the follow button. Not just listen, click follow. Then, when this video goes viral, if I'm not shot in the head, JFK style, people will have a better metric to look at, not just the monthly listeners. Did one song go viral, but they're selling 4 tickets? What else can you do? I don't know. I'm sick of the arguing on the internet about bands. At the same time as being sick of everyone arguing, I'm kind of sick of not being able to state an opinion or a thought that you have on a band. I don't know what we can do. If you like a band, ignore their monthly listeners. Go, hit follow, ignore the monthly listeners, buy a ticket to a show. I hope you have a lovely day.